Okay, at this time we're going to induct the 1971 Waterford Kinsman Rovers, Eastern Canadian Bantam Baseball Champs, and I'd ask Committee Member John White to do the induction, please.
I'm going to try the glasses this time. The team being inducted into the Waterford District Sports Heritage Hall of Fame this evening, the 1971 Eastern Canadian Bantam Baseball Champions, Waterford Kinsman Rovers, was in existence for a very short time. Only 9 games, in fact. But it was certainly a magnificent run as the team won all 9 contests. That year, the Waterford Kinsman Club, ably assisted by other local service organizations and businesses, formed an 18 Bantam Baseball League in our town. As a result, more than 100 boys in the 13 to 15-year-old age bracket, including yours truly, were given the opportunity to play organized ball that summer. Coordinator of the league was a good friend of mine, James Nemus, who had plenty of help from a couple of fellas here tonight, Faith Sudworth, and I see Blaze Poirier up there as well, along with many other fellow Kinsman members. At the conclusion of a very successful first season, Kinsman members selected an all-star squad made up of 2 players from each team to represent the town in the Cape Breton Bantam Playdowns. Of course, a coach was needed, and a member of our Hall of Fame committee, the then 22-year-old Lowell Cormier was chosen. Hence, the Kinsman Rovers were in business. Lowell once told me, and I quote, "The team was already picked and registered, and I was asked to coach. We practiced every day for 2 weeks, and those kids were really talented. They could all hit, run, throw, bunt, and field. They were maybe the last neighborhood game coming up. And I played in that league, and I know these guys, and they were excellent players, believe me." Lowell went on to say, as we progressed, the team kept getting better and better. By the time we played for the Eastern Canadian title in Moncton, we were a fine-tuned unit. And this was the best Bantam ball. There was only one level then. There was no Class A, B, or C. According to Rovers third baseman Charlie McClellan, who took home the Eastern Canadian Tournament's Most Valuable Player Award, Coach Cormier was an excellent mentor who, when circumstances permitted, would put in place a rare play known in baseball circles as the double squeeze, and it paid off in spades. For those of you who may not be aware of how the double squeeze works, I'll explain. With runners on second and third and less than 2 outs, the batter is instructed to bunt towards third base. And as the ball immediately leaves the pitcher's hands, both runners take off. As the third baseman fields the bunt and throws to first base, the lead runner, of course, scores. However, the second runner does not stop at third, and if things go according to plan, he continues on to home plate and also scores. Said Charlie, in those games we played, each time we had runners in second and third with less than 2 outs, Lowell pulled off the double squeeze. It worked 5 or 6 times. Lowell taught us it, and that alone, I think, won us that whole thing, because when it worked, which was every time except once, we scored 2 runs. The Kinsman Rovers began their road to glory 46 years ago this coming September, right here in the Waterford, by winning the Cape Breton Bantam baseball title. Then it was off to Halifax, where the team defeated Kentfield twice and Stellarton once to claim the provincial crown. Interestingly, those 2 mainland clubs were coached by a couple of New Waterford baseball legends and New Waterford Hall of Fame inductees from years past, Eddie Gillis and Leo Fahey. The Rovers then made their way to Moncton, New Brunswick to battle for the Eastern Canadian crown. 3 other teams participated in the double knockout tourney: Montreal Immaculate Conception of Quebec, Prince Edward Island's Montague Lions, and the host squad, Moncton Hillcrest St. Pat's, who represented New Brunswick. Charlie again remembers arriving in Moncton by car with his teammates. When we got to Moncton, they did the draw right there, he told me. We got the draw to play Moncton right off the bat, and they were tournament favorites. We took a 5-1 lead against their left-hander before they finally replaced him in the third. They then brought in their shortstop. Turned out to be Brent Hallett, who later played center field for Canada's national baseball team. Hallett was so fast, said Charlie, that he was a man among boys. He struck out 11 and walked none, but we got to him at the end. As things turned out, the Rovers scored 3 runs off Hallett in the second extra inning to win the game 10-7. Meanwhile, game 2 for the Rovers resulted in a 9-6 victory over PEI. Consequently, the team met Montreal in the championship game. However, the match was no contest. The late Greg Hawley, who was named the tournament's top pitcher, went the distance on the mound as he allowed just 2 singles and struck out 9. Final score, Waterford 8, Montreal nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Hall of Fame Committee, I'm honored to congratulate the 1971 Eastern Canadian Bantam Baseball Champions, the Waterford Kinsman Rovers, on their induction tonight into the Waterford District Sports Heritage Hall of Fame. Team that start. Bobby McKenzie, Bradley Nicholson, Bruce McKenzie, Charlie McClellan, Elmore Can, Gary McPherson, George Campbell, Glenn Hutchinson, who wasn't able to be here because of prior plans, but sends his best. Greg Hawley, represented by his brother-in-law Ray McIsaac, Kevin Kennedy, Kevin Pastick, Rick Langer, Roger McIsaac, Stephen Ness Timmons, Stephen Lee, Stephen Walker, and Wayne Ditton. Coaches, managers, and Kinsman reps: Blaze Poirier, assistant coach; Daniel Poirier, Kinsman rep; Gordon Roach, Kinsman rep, who couldn't be present, passed along his congratulations to the players; Dave Sudworth, manager; Leo Kennedy, manager, represented by his grandson, John Kennedy. Well done, the Waterford Kinsman Rovers.
Charlie's going to say a few words on behalf of the team.
Well, good evening, everyone. Again, more than honored to speak for the team tonight, and we'd like to thank the Hall of Fame Committee for nominating us tonight, and not only for nominating us, but for the great job they do organizing the Hall and for inducting members every year. The job that entails in the work is just phenomenal. It's great to have the residents of the town recognized for their athletic achievements. I'd also like to thank, actually, I think we're all humbled by the quality of the athletes here tonight. It almost feels like you don't belong, but we're certainly happy to be here. I moved to Lingan, but it didn't help my baseball ability. I guess you had to be born there. I think Johnny mentioned most of the key points, but I did want to mention the Kinsman Club. I don't think in the whole story that the Kinsman Club really got the credit that they really deserve, because I remember back at that time the old Babe Ruth League was really dying. There was no uniforms, no balls, that type of thing. Then the Kinsmen decided to sponsor Bantam baseball. I don't know why they picked that age group, but it was lucky for us. And they ran an 8-team league, and we had a team at the end of the year that was picked, and we got into the tournaments. It was we didn't know how we were going to stack up against the other teams. We felt fairly confident against the Cape Breton teams, but when we won that and we went to Halifax, we were pretty apprehensive apprehensive about how we would do against the mainland teams. Heck, most of the guys had never been at a Cape Breton before. We were only 15, some of the guys were only 13. And I remember Ricky Langer was in my car on the way up, and I know Ricky was never at a New Victoria before. And Waterford was a big trip for him. Yeah, and we were going up, and he was reading the signs of all the places. And if you could figure out what Upper Stickwack was, that was Upper Stickwack. And he pronounced Tadamagush, but I wouldn't even be able to tell you how he mangled that one. But our first game was against Kentville, and swear to God, the shortstop had a 5 o'clock shadow, so I was wondering, I think we might be in over our heads here. But actually, we beat them 7-1, and we went on to win the tournament, and not handily, but we certainly were as good as them, if not better. When we went to Moncton, and we heard there was a team in the tournament from Montreal. It wasn't just a maritime championship, it was an Eastern Canadian. So again, we thought maybe we might be in over our head here again. But when we did the draw, we got the Moncton team, which, as Johnny mentioned, was fairly good team, and they had Brent Hallett was a pickup from Fredericton. And but they took us too lightly. When we get out of the cars, and we had those, we went in the rink, is right next to the ball field there. We changed into those ugly black uniforms, and we were all so small. They said, nothing here, but they started the wrong pitcher, and we got a good lead on them. But when they brought in Brent Hallett, as Johnny said, he was a man among boys, and he was so quick. And Lowell said, looking from third base, he had the speed of a senior league pitcher, but we got to him in the end, and it's kind of, well, it's lucky. You have to have bounces to win these tournaments, and Roger McIsaac had struck out earlier in the game, and the catcher couldn't hold the ball because he was so fast, and he made it to first base. So in the extra inning, the ninth inning, he had 2 strikes on him, and he said to himself, next time, if he throws it outside, I'm swinging, and I'm running to first base. And that's exactly what happened. So he struck out again, and made it to first base because the catcher just couldn't hold the guy. He was so fast. So the next batter up was Greg Ham, and he hit the ball right to the shortstop, and double play ball. He threw it to the second baseman, and he dropped it, and 2 men safe. So that was, you need the bounces. And then Bruce McKenzie got up and hit an opposite field triple because he was just barely able to get the bat around. He told Lowell he didn't even see it. I swung the bat. So we got 2 runs there, and then I think Ricky Langer hit a fly ball to bring Bruce in, and we held him off in the bottom of the 9th. But then we got to play Montreal, and like I said, the rink was right next to the ball field. So Montreal beat PEI for the right to play us, and they went into the dress rooms and changed uniforms, put the new ones on for the final game. For us, that was like, and then they came out with bags with their cleats and gloves, and they had batting gloves. We didn't even have anybody who owned one. So again, we thought we might be over our heads, but Greg, there's more stories to tell. I'm hearing more tonight, actually. And Lowell told me that, by that time we had sort of exhausted our pitching staff, and he went down. He had 4 pitchers lining up, and he said nobody had anything. Didn't know who I was going to pitch. And he said his father always told him go with the guy with the experience. So of course Greg was our experienced guy, and he came in and he was stellar. He pitched a 2-hitter. I mean, he had kept them off balance all night. Wasn't even a game. And we pulled off the double squeeze on them with him on the back end. I'll never forget, the third baseman picked up the ball and looked at him, and then threw to first base. They just never saw the play before. It worked every time. Johnny kind of touched on all the things I wanted to say, a lot of them anyway, but there's some things that stick out in my mind about that team, and one was Roger McIsaac. Roger played first when Greg pitched. He played second when George Campbell pitched. He played short when Bruce McKenzie pitched, and he played left field when Wayne didn't pitch. And so he was our swing man. He was probably our most valuable player, I think. And I can't remember making an error. I can't remember anybody making an error, to be honest with you. Another thing that got lost, and I had to remind Lowell about this, was that in the game against Moncton, he took Ness out, and put Elmer in for as pitch hitter, and Elmer went catching. And it was only a couple innings into it, and back then nobody wore the helmet on the mask, so foul tip went off his head, and he couldn't continue. So Lowell, as they said, was a new coach. He didn't really know the players, and he went over to the bench and he said, "Can anybody catch?" Because he didn't know, and everybody said, of course, Bradley Nicholson's a catcher. He'll catch. So Bradley, after not playing one inning in the 6 games in the 2 previous tournaments, came in and caught 3 innings, I believe, 2 of them in the extra innings. And I never ever forgot that, because Wayne relieved Greg and he came in firing bullets as hard as I've ever seen him throw. And Bradley handled that, and that was you need those things to happen for a team to be successful. Another thing I remember, and all the guys will get a kick out of this, was Elmer. We picked Elmer up from Glace Bay to pitch. Turned out to be a better catcher than a pitcher. He only lasted about 3 innings against PEI, and had to get him out of there. But he caught the final game, and I think 5th, 6th innings, pretty well had the game in hand. But Elmer was up, and Lowell gave him a 3. It had 3-0 count. Lowell gave him the take, and Elmer hit a home run down the left field line. But he had to run because didn't clear the fence, but it was in the park, home run. And we all remember Lowell having a temper tantrum on third base because Elmer missed the sign. Not that it didn't matter that he hit a 2-run homer. But, actually, that was the forerunner of Lowell's basketball career, really. That probably was the start of it. Yeah. Finally, or not finally, but finally, Fabe and James and Enos. I remember James in Halifax, when we get up there, we saw the first light ball field I think we ever saw. And James said, "Look at them lights," like we were Hicks in some way, but But Fabe was the Kinsman rep who was in charge of finances, and back then, no credit cards, no anything, really, no money really. And but Fabe had a wallet filled with cash, and that's the way we traveled. And when we stopped, Fabe would pull out the wallet to buy us dinner, probably paid for the hotels when we weren't billeted, and gas money too, I'm sure. And we kind of thought that wallet would never go dry, but it did. So Fabe was our money man. The summer of '71 was our time, with some talent, plenty of grit, and some excellent coaching. Actually, I skipped a page there. I wanted to go back to other things. And Leo Kennedy, Kevin's father, was in charge of the team. They gave it to him. He really didn't feel confident to be able to handle the team, so he asked Lowell to coach. So Lowell, as Lowell told me, he said thought it would be just a 1-tournament gig, and then we'd be off to do what he was doing that summer. But he realized that we were pretty good players, and we might go far. But he said Leo came to him and said, after he cajoled him into coaching, he said, "There's only 2 things that I want," he said, and that is the team is already picked, so you have to take the team we get you, and the other one is you have to let Blaze Poirier coach first base. Sorry, Blaze, they put me up to that. I think he was there in the morning. He lined the field, had the bats, the balls, and everything. He worked tirelessly, but unfortunately during the day, no umpires, so he had to umpire. So that's really where he made all his friends. So as a reward, he got to come to Moncton with us. I don't know, you made the Halifax trip, did you? Yeah, great. The other story I like to recount is, of course, the Kentville team was coached by Eddie Gillis. Of course, the guy with the 5 o'clock shadow, and the Eddie Gillis coach, we thought we're in tough here. But Lowell coached him. Lowell probably learned this stuff from Eddie, but he coached him, and we pulled off the double squeeze a couple of times. Plus, he picked up theirs. They pulled it, and he got missed to go out. And actually, we blew that play, but he picked it off. So the mentor kind of came, or the student kind of came back and got the mentor. The other thing was Leo Fahey, who was from the Waterford and a member of this hall, was a good friend of Eddie's. And we had some rain delays up there, and we didn't know whether we were going to get the game in. So Lalo took Lowell aside and said, you know what, maybe you guys should go home and go back to Kentville next weekend. And we'll pay for it, and you'll pay for it. And what really was happening is he was doing a favor for Eddie, and they were going to have their pitching staff a little more lined up next weekend. So Lowell held his ground, went to the guy who was running the tournament, said, these guys are trying to shaft us here, and we want to play. So we held it, we played that game, and we won. So Lowell was only 22 at the time. He was only a kid himself. God, he hadn't even made his first grant application to the government yet. That's how young he was. So again, I'll start at where I did before there. The summer of '71 was our time, with some talent, plenty of grit, excellent coaching, and some favorable bounces, as well as Fave's ball. We were able to achieve something really special. The fire engine rides after our wins and the support we received from the people of New Waterford at the time was truly amazing, and certainly an honor for our team to be going into the New Waterford District Hall of Fame tonight. In closing, I'd like to mention that our teammate Greg Hawley, who passed away in 2011. Greg was our leader on and off the field, and he was our best player. We miss him, and we certainly wish he was here tonight. Thank you very much.